advertising is an art form, and if you really think about it, it's a creative rendering of an idea, usually about a brand or a service. So I mean, in a nutshell, it's how you creatively communicate that message. So in that respect, I mean, if you think about how advertising started, it originally was very much an art-driven medium, because television and radio and all that came much later. If you look back in history, all of advertising was essentially print-led. So print meaning it was art-led. So art directors were the creative directors. But all of that changed subsequently because, you know, with the advent of new mediums like television, radio, and now of course it's the internet. So things have changed, but the whole evolution of advertising was essentially art-based. It began with art. I mean, his job was he had a big layout paper, you know, big sheets, big pads. He had a load of felt pens, and in those days, in the 50s and 60s, he'd go and sit in front of the CEO, and they will talk about the ad right then and there. And then he'll just draw it, you know, on this piece of paper, and then he'll write the headline, and then the CEO says, "Yeah, I love it." Okay, and the next thing is that got approved across the table. They come back, he can bring it back to the office, he'll execute it. And that time we didn't have digital, or we didn't have imaging or anything. It was like drawn, usually drawn. If you had a photograph, you know, it was usually black and white because the newspapers only printed black and white. So, you know, it was a very simple, to the point kind of ideas which really worked in the marketplace. So, you know, in that time when advertising actually was in its infancy and it was beginning, that's the process. We have a lot of artists, you know, they're artists and they probably do their own artwork more as a hobby. Do we use it, you know, do we incorporate that into our actual creative? Not always, but the important thing is that they are the creators, they are the ideators. So they bring that ideation and that creation to the work that they do. So in that respect, yes, we are always tapping into that, you know, aspect of their creative ability, I would say, to work on the businesses that we work on. In-house also, we encourage, you know, people to, I mean, I think if you walk around the agency, you'll see people have done stuff. A lot of the artwork you see in the agency is all done by staff. You know, we like to see their ability to, if you walk around, almost all the wall paintings, the stuff hanging on the, you know, walls are all work done by staff. So we like to give them the opportunity to feel that if their work is good, we'll put it up for them as well.
In general, as a rule, I think most agency creative departments work on a similar basis. There will be a head of creative and there will be creative directors, and each creative director will have his creative team. The team would largely be made up of art directors and copywriters. And what happens is when a brief comes in for a piece of work, the team gets together and they discuss the brief and the task at hand, and for the most part, art directors and copywriters and creative people get together and brainstorm ideas. They come up with various different angles and ways to take the idea through. A creative director's role in that is to almost, not so much to sort of govern the way the brainstorm goes, but more to have a sense of which ideas are unique and which ideas work best given the task at hand. So in that context, a creative director's role is almost like to orchestrate the creative direction and the idea and end up with a result that's something fresh and different from a creative perspective. The art director plays a specific role where all the artistic elements that go into the creative, and the creative can be a print ad, it can be a TV commercial, it can be an activation, it can be a t-shirt design. But the art director's role is actually a lot more craft oriented in that sense. Once the initial idea has been cracked, he has to come up with the kind of typography, the visual tone of the ad. Is it going to be done with photography or illustration, or is it entirely a typographic solution? Is it graphic design based? It can be so many things. Similarly, when it comes to television, is it what kind of color grade would it have, the model selection, the wardrobe? The art director has to get deeply involved in all of that and work out the best equation to deliver the idea.
The same way I guess most writers would. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Stephen King. So, for example, his method, the way he goes about his writing, is pretty much the same way I would go about my writing. It's always write, edit, edit, and always edit. And different writers have different ways of writing. Some people would be comfortable writing, say, at a bar in some place, or some would just write at home or whatever. But for the most part, the approach is the same approach as any writer would take. Well, your use of language. It's picking the right words. It's about making sure what you're saying comes out clear and concise. And the difference would be, I guess, whereas most writers have like 300, 400 pages to get their point across, we have just one band of grey.
Probably someone would come and brief you on something and say, hey, we need this by tomorrow, and you just have to use all your talent, your skill and experience and come up with the best possible solution. Essentially, what you write or the ideas you come up with, it's a solution to a commercial problem.
I was originally interested in art, and through my art course, I came and did part-time work at an advertising firm, and I realized that it can be applied here, and it's not going to destroy your creativity as long as you know how to utilize it in both aspects, as well as like do something that's cool in design that appeals to the masses as well. So that's where I kind of got the drive to come and work in advertising, as well as it's been in my family. My mom, my dad, everyone's been in advertising, so I guess it was kind of in me. But at the same time, yeah, I'd say like my creativity is satisfied here, because I mean, you do get to do your generic work, but also at the same time, if you can apply it, you get to fuse them both together and you get to do something really cool.